Welcome to Series 2, Episode 7 of When Safeguarding Fails, the Lizzie Gladwell Crisis. I'm Jeremy Gladwell, Lizzie's dad, and I'm telling the heartbreaking true story of how our daughter, a vulnerable young person, was taken, isolated, and subjected to coercive control, and how she was cast adrift by the agencies tasked with safeguarding. "2023 was a year of shock. Nothing can prepare a parent for the horror of the predatory removal of their child. Lizzie was taken, isolated, controlled, and we stood helpless, watching a nightmare unfold before our eyes. 2024 was a year of grief. We began to realise, slowly, painfully, that the very agencies meant to safeguard the vulnerable had instead aligned themselves with the one causing harm. That discovery cut deep. We grieved, not only for our daughter, but for the collapse in trust in systems that should have protected her. And now 2025 is a year of grit. A year of resolve, a year in which we press forward, determined to uncover the truth, no matter how many walls are put in our way. Discoveries have been made against the odds, despite obstruction, despite deception, despite what can only be described as a cover-up. Through it all, I have come to see that truth is not fragile. Truth is not something that can be erased, no matter how many lies are spoken or how many false reports are written. Lies may sound persuasive for a time, but they are only smoke, drifting, shifting without substance. Truth is different. Truth is a tree, deep-rooted, strong and resilient. Storms may rage, seasons may change, but truth stands, unbreakable. Lies are brittle things, fragile even when they appear convincing. They dance like shadows in the flicker of light, but they have no weight, no substance. They may succeed for a season in distracting the eye or deceiving the mind, but they cannot alter reality. Truth is not something created by institutions, nor can it be erased by their failures. It is not dependent on whether people choose to see it, speak it, or acknowledge it. It simply is. Truth stands immovable behind the mirage and mist of lies and falsehoods. And that is what gives me hope. Hope that however much others may try to obscure it, the truth exists. It existed in 2023. It existed in 2024. And it exists in 2025. And it will continue to exist until it is finally seen and acknowledged. That is why we will not give up. That is why we keep going. They say God works in mysterious ways. Through chance conversations, timely calls, apparent coincidences. These things are not always as random as they seem. In January 2025, Coral discovered the podcast. An interesting development. Episode after episode, she could hear evidence. Direct quotations, the recording of a 999 call, text exchanges. Verifiable. Undeniable. Hard facts woven together with grief and anguish. The outpouring of a whole family still reeling from the sudden and inexplicable disappearance of a daughter, niece, granddaughter, goddaughter, cousin, friend. And Coral was listening. Would she respond with compassion, with remorse? Would she reach out to make amends? Would she explain why she removed Lizzie from everything she knew, severing every link? Would she argue that she had been misunderstood, that there was in fact a perfectly reasonable explanation? After all, not once had anyone given us any attempt at justification for the sudden removal of Lizzie one day after her 18th birthday without any of her possessions. Neither Focus Adult Social Work nor Humberside Police had ever sat down with us to explain. Not once. After 18 months, we still hadn't had a single meeting with either agency. No explanation had ever been offered. So how did Coral respond to hearing the narrative of events in a public podcast? On Facebook, she wrote, quote, "We will not be beaten by the dribble and lies of those who don't know how to take accountability for their actions or behaviour." Dribble and lies. Any mock outrage I might express at Coral's words pales into insignificance when compared to our outrage at her actions. Driving off with Lizzie bold as brass, cold as stone. Cutting every tie. Isolating her. And ticking almost every box of the official criteria for coercive and controlling behaviour. Premeditated predatory removal is not dribble. Stealing Lizzie's phone and controlling her contacts is not dribble. Interfering with Lizzie's communications is not dribble. Making vile Facebook threats is not dribble. Falsely accusing her innocent uncle of rape is not dribble. The cruelty inflicted upon us, on Lizzie, and the blatant disregard shown by the agencies, sanctioned by the state, are not dribble. They are agony. And lies? Every word, every claim, every account can be verified with hard, indisputable evidence. Evidence no one in any statutory agency has ever asked to see. So no, I wasn't outraged by Coral's post. I saw it for what it was. A crude attempt at deflection. A smokescreen. Another misdirection to mislead the agencies. And Coral's talk of those who don't know how to take accountability is telling. It's inference, suggestion, innuendo. Nothing specific, nothing concrete, no facts, no evidence. Just a smear. Something she knew the agencies would absorb without ever once asking for proof. And of course, it worked. One day I received a call out of the blue. The head of a local charity that works with disadvantaged and vulnerable young people had been told about the podcast by mutual friends. She listened to the episodes and she was appalled. When it came to the agency's woeful response, she expressed little surprise. Instead, she recommended that we find a good solicitor. "This has got Panorama written all over it," she said. She recognised the stark warning for all parents of young people in North East Lincolnshire with special needs. This could easily be you. She told me she was due to meet with the MP for Grimsby the following morning and promised to raise our case with her. True to her word, the next day she met with the MP and described our experience, and the MP agreed to take it up as a case. That was good news. Another tier of support, another weight of pressure on the agencies to finally do the right thing. Or at the very least, to give some answers for their lamentable response. I hoped that the MP and her caseworker might be the angels who could break through the institutional blockade that had been built around Lizzie. That would have been fantastic. As with so many points in this ordeal, the promise and the hope proved greater than the reality. Nonetheless, my dealings with the Grimsby MP and her caseworker did provide some revealing insights. With the MP now aware of Lizzie's case, the agencies were less inclined to stonewall. They couldn't ignore her the way they had ignored everybody else. The Chief Superintendent of Humberside Police, for example, was asked by the MP's caseworker for an account of how our case had been handled. And because the request came on behalf of a Member of Parliament, he replied, and for that I am grateful. This is what he wrote. "Thank you for contacting me in respect of Mr. Gladwell and his concerns, etc., etc. My inquiries have revealed how Mr. Gladwell's concerns have been previously explored in detail by both our Protecting Vulnerable Persons team and also our Professional Standards Department. I can confirm that no further action is being taken in respect of Mr. Gladwell's concerns, in that they have been explored extensively. With best wishes, etc., etc." Explored in detail. Explored extensively. No further action. DC Roscoff was part of the Protecting Vulnerable Persons team that had supposedly explored the case in detail. Did we ever meet DC Roscoff? No, because his supervisor didn't allow it. Did he ever ask to see the evidence of our claims? No. Did he show any awareness of the Home Office statutory guidance on controlling or coercive behaviour? No. There were only superficial conversations with us. He met briefly with Lizzie. He refused to contact Thomas Scrimshaw. That was the extent of his detailed exploration. As for the Professional Standards Department, which had allegedly explored the case extensively, they didn't explore it at all. They flatly refused. You might remember they sent me a consent form for Lizzie to sign. In that email they wrote, quote, "If we have not received any correspondence from Lizzie Gladwell by the 19th of August 2024, then the case will be closed and no further action will be taken. There is no right of review of this decision." End quote. To claim that DC Roscoff had explored our concerns in detail is a gross exaggeration. and to suggest that the Professional Standards Department had explored the case extensively is nothing short of a lie. Now, I'm not saying that the Chief Superintendent himself lied. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But he did give a false report to a Member of Parliament because he had been lied to by the Professional Standards Department. Strong words? A bold claim? Perhaps. But here's the reality. The Professional Standards Department told me categorically that they would not and did not read or consider the evidence we had submitted. Yet they told the Chief Superintendent that they had explored the case extensively. That is simply not true. This isn't a matter of opinion, it's black and white. Either the Chief Superintendent lied to a Member of Parliament, or he was lied to by the Professional Standards Department. My money is on the latter. Either way, it is appalling. I know what I'm saying, and it gives me no pleasure to say it. My own mental health was suffering. In my journal I wrote, "I am struggling. I need to let go, but I can't. How can I? How can I abandon Lizzie, my daughter? But equally, how can I carry on living this shell of an existence, existing, but just wanting to hide in the darkness?" For the hearts of these people are hardened, and their ears cannot hear, and they have closed their eyes, so their eyes cannot see, and their ears cannot hear, and their hearts cannot understand. Matthew's Gospel, chapter 13. My patience with Humberside Police had run out. My trust in PC Smith's assurances that our evidence would be read and properly considered was gone. The reality was clear. Despite overwhelming evidence, Humberside Police had failed to act in any meaningful way to protect a vulnerable young adult who was being groomed and subjected to sustained coercive and controlling behaviour. Humberside Police had retreated into what somebody aptly described to me as riot shield mode. You can picture it, I'm sure. Why? All I had ever tried to do was protect my vulnerable daughter from abuse and control. Coercive and controlling behaviour is a crime. Yet I was being lied to by the police, gaslit, treated with unprofessionalism, and even subjected to what looked like an abuse of power in the form of the so-called Community Resolution Order, which in reality didn't exist. I know it all sounds mad and far-fetched, I really do. But all I'm doing here is stating clearly and methodically what we've experienced. My account is not based on hazy memories or fragments of conversations. It's based on black and white evidence, the kind of evidence that would stand up in court. And if the agencies responded to me in this way, then it's reasonable to assume that this is simply how they operate in general. The difference in our case is that I'm documenting it. I had shown good faith in response to PC Smith's assurances, But their lamentable response only confirmed what we had experienced all along: behaviour that was unprofessional, untruthful, and unethical. By this stage we had learned that there were some people with whom it was simply pointless to discuss the situation. They would never see it. It was like trying to explain the rules of cricket to a dog. Futile. A waste of breath. I could lose days or weeks of my life, locked in futile conflict with Humberside Police, and I was no longer willing to do that. There was still an outstanding referral to the Information Commissioner's office due to Humberside Police's refusal to respond to a legally binding subject access request. But beyond that, I saw no benefit in making any further attempt to engage with them. I thought I was done. What I didn't realise was that they still held one more shocking piece of evidence that would help explain why the agencies had been acting in lockstep with Coral's scheme. By then I had already given up on Focus Adult Social Work. I had given up on Humberside Police. But Linkage College was about to provide evidence that would transform our understanding of the agency's response. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of When Safeguarding Fails, the Lizzie Gladwell Crisis. Please subscribe for updates at lizziegladwell.org.uk. Share the podcast and add your voice to ours. I'm so grateful to those who have walked the path with us, for those who continue to listen to the podcast and spread the word. Thank you again, and join me for the next episode.